language is.
Can I just clarify one thing on that? You said several hours before the vote. You are expecting a vote today. Some were saying that the vote could be postponed.
It was our expectation. Of course, it could always be postponed.
Sure.
That was the original plan for it to be today, but of course, it could be postponed.
Can I just ask you a little bit more about the commercial trucks that you're mentioning?
Sure.
Is that because of the entryway of the second point, Kiryat Shalom, or is that through Rafah?
No, they're through Rafah, actually.
Through Rafah.
These are two separate measures that we are trying to achieve. One, to get Kerem Shalom open, so we alleviate what has become kind of a difficult situation at Rafah with the amount of trucks that can get through, but also to the warehouses that are on the Rafah side. And two, commercial trucks, getting commercial traffic reflowing means that you have an additional source of assistance coming in, or it's not assistance, it's food and other goods. So you're not just relying on UN agencies and other humanitarian organizations to deliver critical goods.
Is there just a little bit more detail you can offer about that in terms of what the commercial trucks are delivering, who is supervising it, which commercial entities?
Not that I can do from here, I'd be happy to get back to you, but it is for the most part food. Yeah, Mary.
Matt, just on CIA Chief Bill Burns has met with Qatari Prime Minister on the hostages. I'm wondering if there is anything you can offer on that. Is there any renewed optimism for a new deal on the hostages?
So we would absolutely look to achieve a new humanitarian pause that would allow the release of hostages. The first one was a major priority for the United States. We worked to achieve it across a number of different channels. And of course, that humanitarian pause was successful in securing the release of more than 100 hostages and increased humanitarian assistance moving into Gaza, because once you have sustained pauses, humanitarian assistance that gets into Gaza can more safely and easily move around to get to the people that actually need it. So we would absolutely support reaching a deal to achieve those positive outcomes again, but I very much wouldn't want to handicap it. We had a pause that was working well, and Hamas reneged on the commitments it had made and launched terrorist attacks and refused to release hostages that it had agreed to do, and that led to the collapse of the first pause. So I never want to bet on Hamas's good faith, but we absolutely will try to pursue a resolution here.
Right, and on what Matt was saying, U.S. has put in a lot of diplomacy on trying to get the Israelis to put in more protections for civilians, and Secretary was there, and he departed from Israel December the 1st, and then after Southern Gaza offensive has started, and you guys have been sort of reluctant to weigh in on how Israel has conducted the Southern Gaza offensive. You said it's too early to make an assessment. So would you like to make an assessment?
So
right
since I said that, you have seen. Sorry to interrupt. If there was, since I've said that, you've seen the Secretary come out and say that there is very clearly a gap between intent and results, and that we've seen Israel express an intent to minimize civilian casualties, but we continue to see too many Palestinians die, and so that's why we continue to engage with them on additional measures they can take, on deconfliction sites, on doing everything within their power to minimize civilian harm.
Right, so that was what I was getting at. Have you seen over the past couple of days, because I mean, Jake Sullivan was there and Secretary Austin is there as well, and they're sort of making this a priority. Have you seen over the past couple of days any assurance, anything new, any new plan from the Israelis to suggest that there is going to be much more concrete steps in place to ensure civilian protection?
So I'm not going to speak to the meetings that the National Security Advisor had. White House, of course, can speak to those, and I'm not going to speak to the meetings that the Secretary of Defense just concluded today. His team can obviously, who are with him on the ground in Israel, can obviously speak to those in more detail. What I will say is that we continue to engage with them on the importance of taking concrete steps to minimize civilian harm, and that includes predictable pauses so people know when they can move around. It includes deconfliction sites so people know that there are places they can be where they will not be fired on. So we will continue to have those conversations. But as I said at the beginning, we do also have to remember that Hamas could make all of this easier if they would come out from hiding behind civilians and surrender, put down their arms, and stop putting civilians in the way of this, or in the middle of this very difficult situation.
Can I follow up?
I'll come to you. I'll come to you next site. Go ahead, Barbara.
Do